Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination thrive. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
I would say happy Saturday, but that would be bullshit because, like a pigeon. Hold on, this thing's got to go. Yeah, there we go. The sub panel is echoing back for me. Like a pigeon. Where I am pretty sure it's uh, uh, I'm in a shitty mood. Sorry. All right, so hey, let's. I was moments away from not doing the show tonight and just getting to all that, but I decided we didn't do one last week. Got some topics we want to talk about, and we can probably compress it. Um, we're just gonna. I'm gonna answer some stuff in the chat. Say hi to you guys, and then we're just gonna get into our topics, and probably gonna be about a 90-minute show, if that. So, am I a bit laggy? All right, hold on. Let me see. I may not be able to fix that. I'm in a shitty situation given the weather today, but hold on. Let me see what I can do. I hope that corrects the issue because that's the best I can give you guys tonight. I'll keep it, see if I can monitor it, and hold on. All right, I think I fixed the issue. StreamYard went back to its default settings, which are shitty. So hopefully you guys can hear me now. I think that's going to work great. Like I said, everything revolves around having shitty weather. My internet sucks when it's this way because it's like Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, so there we go. All right, so hopefully we got that fixed. Doctor Strange 3 and Black Panther 3 looking likely. Let's go. Wasn't a big fan of the last twos of those. Wakanda Forever, as for obvious reasons that we spoke about at length on this show, I was not a fan of. And Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was just a disorganized cameo fest that I wasn't, and I rented out a theater for that, and I wasn't really impressed with that one. So I hope the third one's the charm for both of them. If they're not going to, hopefully they get the recasting of T'Challa done before all this and all that's done. Because if they're not going to recast T'Challa, then I'm going to sit this one out. I don't think Doctor Strange 3 can be any worse than Doctor Strange 2. It was still a fun movie, but it looked like somebody just threw together a rock video and it just didn't have any flow to it. And then like the cameos are just kind of lame. They just bought them in just to kill them. So yeah, those two sequels weren't my favorite of the run. Hello, Clinton. How you doing? Okay, cool. Hey, Jimmy Badalinsky, long time no see. I don't think there's such thing as a downfall of MCU, to be honest with you. I don't think that's even possible. You may have ebbs and flows where things are, going better than at any given time than others, but I think they're a victim of their own success, and that's what people match them up against. So that's fine, but I don't think there's really a downfall. If they bring in another variant, that's fine because any variant that they want to bring in, they can consolidate into the prime timeline. Because everything that happens in Secret Wars and Doomsday is going to be to consolidate and restart time, so that it'll restart it with the additions of these universes or the exclusion of certain universes. So if you bring in a variant T'Challa and want to make that your T'Challa, that's fine. That's just one of the pieces you keep going forward. I thought they could have done that before, to be honest with you. Yeah, work had me going in at 4 a.m. Last month now, but scheduled back to normal. Good to hear. Okie dokie. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started with our number one, not number one, our first up topic, 1982. I was a really young collector. I was still buying the stuff off the racks. I had not started going to comic book stores yet, but I knew who the X-Men were. I damn sure knew who Chris Claremont was. At 8 years old, I'm still getting the whole reading thing perfected, and comic books were the way I did it. That's why I became a fan of comic books, because articulation and a lot of the words that I in sentence structure and all those type of things were in comic books. One of the very first things that I picked up was this on a regular basis. I bought them out of order. The 7-Eleven got issue 3, then they got issue 1, then they got issue 4, then they got issue 2. This is just the way it was back then. This is Wolverine. This has a distinction of being the second Marvel miniseries. Second Marvel miniseries. When you think of all the miniseries that Marvel's done in the last 46 years, this to have the distinction of being the second overall one that they ever did was cool. And it brings together two people who were at that time really helping put Marvel where it would be the next 7, 8, 9 years. Frank Miller and Chris Claremont came together on this. So I can't, between what Frank Miller did for Daredevil and Batman, and what Chris Claremont did for all mutant books, because he was a writer, he was a collaborator on a lot of different ones, New Mutants. These two were the driving forces, in my opinion, in the early to mid 80s. They would hand that over to guys like Jim Lee, Tom McFarlane, other guys like that, Ron Lim. But when comics were just just becoming something that could business could be built on. These are the guys at the helms, and this is the stuff that was coming on. Now, this comic is particularly violent for the era, and it's what defined Wolverine. Chris Claremont had already been doing the work from 1976 on, defining his personality, but all of that was in conjunction with the X-Men. All that was playing off of the team that he was putting him in. Here he's on his own. Here, all the thought bubbles here are his, and he's not worried about a team. He's not worried about what a team thinks about him. His berserker rages and things. Lots of ninjas in this. Lots of ninjas. I think Wolverine has to kill about 1,000 ninjas in this. But let me go ahead and bring up some of the panels for this. And Frank Miller does a great job. So right there, you have the cover, this very famous cover that came out. I have the original. This is a reprint, but I do have the original. Also, this is the era where they changed his costume. In the late 1979, the early 80s, he would go from the yellow and blue, the yellow and black with the tiger stripes on it, and the yellow and black cowl. And for a long time, from about 1982, I'm going to say throughout to the mid 90s, he would have this brown and yellow costume. You can kind of see it right here. When I first saw Wolverine, this is the costume that he had. Has the brown going down the middle and the yellow on the sides and the dark maroon, the dark brownish cover. And this is the costume that I would know him for most of my couple of years. Now I have other issues on here where he came back to the I think Jim Lee when X-Men #1 came out in 1991. That's when they started to switch back to the yellow and black. I think that was a preference from Jim Lee because that's who was drawing the comic at the time. Most of you guys, depending on what generation you're in, you pretty much wouldn't have seen this unless you were buying back issues, because once he's been wearing the yellow and black costume again for about 35 years now. So a lot of you probably never picked up an issue with this one on it. But Frank Miller does a really good job in this. Lots of black blood. This is a lot of the blood that's in here. He's killing people. He's cutting people. But it's suggestive instead of completely gory as like it would be in a comic book today. Frank Miller was a master of doing that. If you look at Dark Knight, a lot of the blood stuff that's in there in Dark Knight is brown or black. And they did this so that they didn't really, they get people off their back about the violence. But there's lots of stuff going on in here. Wolverine he's taking some time from the X-Men. He's gone to Japan to look for the love of his life, Maruko, and she's involved in a whole bunch of other things that he has to fight his way through. This is one of the panels that I really like, where he's grabbing the guy, and he this is where, other than the John Byrne era, he uses his claws a lot more articulately than he had in previous. He lets loose here. Once again, this is just him. It's just him. There's no Storm. There's no Jean Grey. There's no other X-Men to pull him back. He's on his own mission, and there's plenty of people to slice and dice and kill in this. Some of these covers. This is the cover right here. I think this is cover. This is number 4. This is the final issue with him in the crossbow. That's number 3. And this is also an era where he would go through a lot of these stories, and about 50% of the time you saw him, he did not have his cowl on. This was an era, in my opinion, that established what he looked like under the mask, because he spent a lot of time without the mask on. And Chris Claremont explained that years and years ago is when you're telling the human aspect of Logan, it's important that you saw his face and you saw his facial expressions. Whereas when it was just the Berserker, or when it was just the X-Man, the costume vigilante, the costume hero, it was a different identity. But this particular miniseries, they wanted you to get to know him a lot better. And after this, you started to see him wear it less and less and less. Sometimes he would go entire issues without putting the cowl on. That's why when Deadpool Wolverine came out, when he puts the cowl on, because during the movies, and that's another thing during the Fox movies, he didn't have that cowl. There was a time where Wolverine was as identifiable without the cowl as he was with it. So I was happy to see that back in there. But this was a particularly for 1982. This is a particularly violent miniseries. But it was happening with the two guys that were just reaching their zenith. 1982, Chris Claremont had been on X-Men for 5-6 years. I think Frank Miller had been on Daredevil for about a year, if I'm not right. I don't have the numbers right in my head, but I know he started in like 138, 139, and then he'd been on it for a while. In 1982 was where Daredevil, the whole Child's Play, Kingpin, that situation was starting to come to a end. And then X-Men was slowly becoming the number one comic across the board. And then once comic book stores started to become widespread, X-Men pretty much took over. But there were things like Daredevil, were things like Batman that would break in before they predominantly in the 80s. If you didn't have an X on your book, it might not sell unless Frank Miller was working on it. Let me answer some of these questions real quick, so I don't want to ignore you guys. So now, what that woman cover looks like the cover they use in Deadpool and Wolverine when Wolverine faced Hulk. No, that cover, the cover you're talking about is Hulk 340, Incredible Hulk 340. That's the Todd McFarlane cover. That's the cover where he's got his blades facing this way, and Hulk's reflection is into that. I had that issue too. I had that signed by Todd McFarlane. Hulk 340, what you were talking about is this. It's one of the most famous covers out there. Every time I go to a convention and Todd McFarlane is signing something, a lot of it is going to be this cover. Here we go. So you're talking about this right here. Camera. Too many steps. You're talking about that cover. That's the one that they used in Deadpool versus Wolverine. And that was a very famous cover. We all of us nerds recognize that immediately when he did it. The only difference is in Deadpool versus Wolverine, he's holding the claws in a different direction. That's the only difference there. But that's the screen right there. So but yeah, I think that it being the second miniseries that Marvel ever did was really important. So let me give you some backstory on this. So, first Wolverine was 4-issue limited series, the company's second ever limited series, written by Chris Claremont and penciled by Frank Miller, inks by Joe Rubinstein. Wow, I'm that name. Letters by Tom Orzechowski, and colors by Glynis Wynn. Marvel Comics published the series in 1982. Cover dated from September to December, highlighting Wolverine's time in Japan. This story arc covers his battle with the Yakuza, the Hand Ninja Organization, and his engagement to Miyuki Yoshida. So yeah, lots of gangsters get sliced up, and lots of ninjas. Frank Miller, helped with the creative process, and if you know anything about Frank Miller, he loves ninjas. Daredevil, he loves ninjas. And also, there was a unifying factor there because the Hand. Wolverine fights the Hand. That's what the ninjas are employed by. And then Daredevil would fight the Hand. To this day, Daredevil is fighting the Hand, and a lot of the things that they do, and the connections between Stake and all the training. So you had Frank Miller, who had lorded over a lot of that stuff, helping them incorporate this in the look and feel. with that. So, hello, Aaron. How are you doing? I don't know where the fuck Brad is. When they finally, I wonder when they finally cast a new Wolverine MTU, will they have him wear the cowl? Good question. Good question. I know in 2000 when what people don't realize, because they look at it now, they look at comic book movies now, and it's really you can do anything you want with costumes. You can put the most ridiculous things on there, and the general public's attitude towards comic book movies has changed in the last 25 years. When you doing X-Men 2000 was a risk. I still contend it's the most important comic book movie ever made. Because of what it told Hollywood and all these industries what they could do with an ensemble cast that size and with that type of world building. The movies you have today came from that genesis because that told Hollywood that yes, we can do this. Yes, we can build a world. It doesn't just have to be one character here, one character. We can start world building. And then a lot of those people would be the people who would help form Disney Studios, MCU, Marvel Studios, and all those things. There's a lot of familiar names. But in 2000, you wouldn't have been able to get the cowl and the yellow and black and all that stuff we were just in a different place. When they were making those movies they wanted to use the familiarity of the IP, but at the same time, they were at a crossroads where they were worried about that, if that would alienate the normal, which we called normies back then. So the X-Men were, for the most part, in black and leather and all these kind of things. But now, in the 25 years since, it's become pop culture. It's cool now to go to these things. It's cool now to cosplay as these things. And then cosplay is a big reason why a lot of these things have become acceptable. Nowadays, Wolverine can look exactly like he did in the comic, whereas in 2000, that was not the case. The only characters really that you could do that with straight out of the book and be as colorful and crazy as they did off the page were the iconic ones that every man, woman, and child had already learned to accept. The Spider-Mans, the Supermans, Batmans, Wonder Woman, Hulk. These are ones that had been ingrained in people's brains for decades, and they had that long to accept them. X-Men, although popular, comic lore-wise, the general public didn't become as aware of the X-Men until way later after all these other ones do. So that's why when you first see an X-Men movie, you kind of see muted colors and muted things because that's, they didn't know if the general public would buy it. So I hope he wears the cowl, though. I was an 84 baby. You're exactly 10 years younger than me. But it was 1990 when I got my comic. It was Uncanny X-Men 266. That was the first Gambit. That's a good one to have. And that was the beginning of Jim Lee's permanent or continuous run. He had started in X-Men 248. That was his first issue, but he wasn't consistently on the book until X-Men 266, and the rest is history there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an iconic cover. It says it all, and I'm glad I have my own copy of this, not in the store, but this is the reprint, the facsimile. I have the entire series. It's out in trade. It's been out in trade paperback for about 30 years. I recommend it if you're a fan of Wolverine and you want to see the window where his development, his growth really came from. It's right here, and not to throw stones at the animated 92 and all that. This right here, for those of you who are watching on the horizontal, I got to remember we have that format now. This right here in stories like it, especially during the John Byrne and Chris Claremont era, why I can never accept what they did with the cartoon. I can never truly be it. And for those of you who did, congratulations. I'm happy for you. We all meet in the same place. But the sheer violence that's in here and in other interpretations of Wolverine, especially in the 80s, throughout the Mutant Massacre, before he truly became commercialized, that's what I hold on to. So actually, to be honest with you, when they started doing the Fox movies, Deadpool, Wolverine, Logan, that's where you started to see, in my opinion, the true DNA of the character, the unleashed manner of the character. So that's why this is so important. Second Marvel miniseries ever done. the two it guys at the time, Frank Miller and Chris Claremont, coming together and giving you something that you would expect from those two gentlemen. And going forward, if you like Frank Miller Daredevil, there's no way you haven't. If you haven't read this and you like Frank Miller's Daredevil, if you like the TV show, which I am overall the original run of Netflix, I'm 70% in love with it, but there's a lot of shit in there that just really I didn't like, but 70% is really good. If you like that series, and if you like ninjas in general, if you like seeing ninjas die, you can definitely pick this up. But I think if you're a fan of Frank Miller at all, his run on Daredevil or his run on Batman or any of the things that have been influenced, go out and pick this up. Don't have to bankrupt yourself with this. These issues are super expensive now, or more expensive than they really, the average person can really pick up. $24.95. You can get it on Amazon. Nice brand new Frank Miller cover, and it gives you all four of these, and it gives you all the behind the scenes stuff. So that is my comic book turning point story, one of the most iconic ones ever done. And now that I've gotten that out the way, right on time.
Yeah. Yes, there's a little behind, and yeah, the Frank Miller Wolverine, that because that was, did you mention that was also, because that was like that was partially the basis for the Wolverine in 2013.
So I've heard, but yeah.
I something along those lines.
I don't see it, but I hear that all the time. So I'm looking at it from a different angle to where I don't see it, but I'm not going to dispute that. I
like it thematically informed. There's, I mean, that was really bandied about a lot when that was coming out. So
yeah, as somebody who was reading this, like literally 8-year-old me, because this is what like I said, I saw the other covers came out first.
He recreated that too, by the way. That
yeah. But yeah, some of the things that people say inspire certain things. I'm pretty sure you're right. I just don't see it. Because I'm looking at it from its origin all the way up. But I'm not going to dispute that. But I'm pretty sure that Frank Miller's Wolverine, or Frank Miller and Chris Claremont's Wolverine, has influenced a lot of storytelling, up to and including things that they would do. This was a turning point for Wolverine, as far as this was when he was just becoming the most popular of the X-Men. And at the same time, the X-Men were starting to take over that number one spot, because for such a long time, it was DC. DC held on to those spots. DC with Batman held on to those spots. And X-Men was a canceled book. And I think a lot of people don't realize. And X-Men ran from issue 1 to like 67. And for years, it was in reprints. They actually canceled the book. For some reason, they did that back then. They would cancel a book and either change the name or put reprints. X-Men was an actually canceled book. So from issue 67 all the way up to issue 94, in between that, or right at the end of that cancellation run, you got Giant Size X-Men #1, which introduced the new X-Men. And the very next issue was was X-Men 94, which they immediately killed in X-Men. They killed Thunderbolt like right off the bat. So X-Men was popularity wasn't what we all know it to be. Chris Claremont came in right around that era, and then John Byrne came in with him, and they had an iconic run that to this day is one of the best they ever did. A lot of characters were created. The Phoenix saga, the Shi'ar Empire, all these things. Alpha Flight was came through, and there's so many things that came through during the Byrne era. But this was right when it was all starting to come together, and you were starting to identify these characters, in ways that you would identify the Hulk, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man. Yeah, I don't have much regard for that movie.
What, the first one?
Nah, I'm not a big fan of some of those.
The first, I thought you always talked about like the first X-Men.
Oh no, the first X-Men. I thought you were talking about the Wolverine one. The one.
Yeah, this picture here is from the first X-Men.
Okay, no, I thought you were bringing up the one from the.
Yeah, he created with that, and he did one for Deadpool and Wolverine too. So that one, I'm see if I can find the.
Yeah, but that movie, no, the first X-Men. Listen, the first X-Men is not perfect. I'm not saying the first X-Men is the best movie, by the way. But it's the most important comic book movie ever made, in my opinion. The most important comic movie ever made.
Here's the one from Deadpool and Wolverine there.
That one I remember. But yeah, his solo movies after that left me wanting.
I mean, they got better as they went along. It's like, I mean, Wolverine Origins, it is what it
I
is.
thought Wolverine Origins sucked.
The Wolverine actually, I think, is pretty underrated. And then
I think that's for a reason. I think it's rated right where. Me personally, I think it's rated right where it's gonna be.
And then Logan is different. Logan's the one that pretty much got everybody as far reception wise.
Because it was the only one of those, in my opinion, that is it's the most. It's well made, well acted. It's like everything that they were trying to do in those previous movies came together. That's my favorite Charles Xavier from Patrick Stewart, and my favorite version of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And that Logan it outclasses his other solos. Like the Origins was like that's almost comedy for me. But hey, listen, they did well. They did well enough to keep the train going. So
and it gave Scott Adkins a leg up. He was making a name for himself. He was the Weapon 11 double for that. So it will always get extra points for me for that.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know who Scott Adkins is
at this point fewer people than William wants to admit. But I wouldn't go this far. It's not infinitely rewatchable.
No, I barely found it watchable while I was watching it, and I paid to see that movie. A lot of people like them. I don't like those movies. I think that they took a lot of liberties and just but they weren't horrible. I just wouldn't make time out of my day to go watch them again. Except for Logan, I'll watch Logan.
At that point, Hugh Jackman, he was actually talking about like after Origins, he because he wasn't happy with how that turned out. He was and by the way, like what I said there.
I don't know what you're on right now, Pro.
What I said there about like it gets a leg up and it gets extra points on my vote for it being like an early stepping stone for Scott Adkins during his early career. But even that said, it's like Scott Chapman.
Explain who Scott Adkins is to the 99.9% of people who
have you seen John Wick 4? Then you've seen Scott Adkins. There you go. There is literally.
Is there any broad thing that people are gonna? Is this no offense to you, Scott Adkins? When we're hosting a show and somebody throws out a name that most people aren't going to know, I need a little context.
I'm very familiar with at this point. I'm sorry, that's objectively the case.
Okay, so everybody's seen John Wick.
Look at the numbers. But anyway, even saying that, Scott, Hugh Jackman, and Ryan Reynolds, they've all come down. They've all spoken very disparagingly of Origins.
Yeah, I thought Origins sucked, but hey,
Hugh Jackman, like he was talking about it at the time, like after that first horror movie run, he said, and he said this around the time of Logan, I think, where he said he was considering, I think I may have kind of like, kind of run my course on Wolverine. He was considering step away from the role, and then he had the cameo in First Class, and then it just kept going. It's like he
First Class was actually a pretty decent, actually above decent movie.
Yeah.
But Wolverine Origins, I'm like, this is.
Well, he had the best scene in First Class too. He had my favorite scene in First Class. And, like, hey, we're here to go fuck yourself.
Yes, wasn't like I said. So bottom line, I wasn't a fan of most of Jackman's solo movies. I thought some of them were just not good. I enjoyed them in X-Men, but the X-Men movies are not perfect.
Yeah, I think this is fairly reflective of like kind of the consensus as far as like the X-Men proper movies. The ones that I think tend to get rated the highest are X2, First Class, and Days of Future Past. Those are the ones I think get the most love.
Quality wise, I would agree with that, because listen, X-Men wasn't the best of the X-Men movies. The first X-Men was not the best of the X-Men movies. There was a lot of work to go.
When you look back on it now, I mean, it's like, it was definitely groundbreaking for its time, but it was also pretty small scale for what we now associate with DC and Marvel.
Because we wouldn't have that scale without that movie. We just would not have that scale without that movie. That movie, and no one has ever presented to me another movie that has the importance as far as where we are at in modern comic book movie making and where we've been for the last 15 years. I've had people give me their favorites. That's not what I fucking asked you. I've had people give me their sentimental ones that mean something to them personally, and that's not what I asked you. Importance as far as everybody who's going to make these movies for the next quarter century. are sitting there watching these people take that risk with that kind of IP. And for the very first time, that is the first time that a world was being built. Not a little community around one hero, not Gotham City around Batman, not Metropolis around, not, New York City around Spider-Man and whatever the tight-knit people, a world in which an entire ensemble cast is operating within that world. And if you look at the bones that is in X-Men 2000 going forward, there's one of the primary reasons why the MCU was able to get off to such a fast start was because many of those people had been building the brand's credibility for the previous 8 years, either with the Sony films and Spider-Man, which didn't hurt, but with the X-Men films, because the X-Men films, more so than the Spider-Man films, said we can build a world, we can add an ensemble cast and tell a story from multiple different directions. And by the way, that's what happened.
You remember hearing that story about they tried to make facilitate a Wolverine cameo in Spider-Man 2? Like they flew Hugh Jackman. I mean, they came close to doing it. They flew Hugh Jackman out to the set, and basically, from what I've read, basically the only reason that didn't happen was they just couldn't get sued out there or something. So, yeah, is it is. Oh, Aaron's definitely not a Days of Future Past fan.
Either that or you're trolling me. I don't know, but I think that's one of the better ones. But hey, like I said, all of these movies is how they hit you. There are people who love X-Men Origins or Wolverine Origins. I think I don't like. But it's all subjective. So that's the influence that, in my opinion, this had on there. And then you had a domino effect with everything going forward. But now you have comic book people that are doing these things, and people see that costume, the normies see that costume for the very first time, the ones that didn't pick up a book. Hey, maybe you'll pick up a comic, and see what's going on. But all right, so there we go with that. Did you go ahead and see Running Man?
I did. Just got home about an hour ago from that.
Okay, I only saw the first 42 minutes. It was enough to where I'll get a chance. When I get the chance, probably not going to be in a theater, which means 2 weeks from now. I will watch the other half, but I just didn't have the time and I had weather.
Yeah, overall, I really dug it. For those of you who have seen the original or kind of are familiar with Stephen King / Richard Bachman novel, so it's set in a dystopian future where the United States is, everything's kind of gone to shit, and we have this collection of reality shows where people basically like risk their lives for a big cash prize, and one was the Running Man, where if you can outrun people being sent to kill you for 30 days, you get a ton of money. Len Powell, his family needs money. He ends up doing that for this, and overall, really enjoyed it. I mean, the Arnold movie is, it's definitely very 80s cheese. It's definitely much more. The original is definitely much more an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie first and a Stephen King movie second. And this kind of endeavors to be more so. It is interesting because I've been thinking about this recently with like The Long Walk, and even when with The Stand, is like because Stephen King, he's so associated with horror, not inaccurately, obviously, but I don't think his name doesn't get really as it's not as linked to kind of the dystopian future social commentary sort of subgenre. But he's done a pretty good amount of work in that realm. So I don't know what kind of why that is. Maybe because just the horror work sort of
horror sells, the other stuff doesn't.
Yeah, but well, yes, this is definitely it's Edgar Wright. Really going Edgar Wright. I mean, very.
So now, Junkie said that last night, and I've seen his films, but there's nothing about his films that to me says, "Oh, that's him."
Well, what of his have you seen?
Well, you named him the other day. Wait, hold on. Let me, because he pulled up the list.
For my money, like the one I would, if I had to pick one, where I would tell people like this is like
last night in Soho. I didn't.
It was probably Scott Pilgrim. I would say is the one.
Scott Pilgrim I've seen. I like Scott Pilgrim, but there's nothing in that any of these other movies that he's done that says, okay, that's you. Like when Denny does a movie or Ridley does a movie, I can tell I can sniff that out. There's really nothing descriptive about his movies. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not that big of a fan.
I think that he's I think also his stylistically he's a little bit more amorphous than probably like a lot of auteur directors. So maybe that's part of it. But you really had a lot of fun with this. I think as far as like the comparison, the original, like I said, the original was very much an Arnold movie first, Stephen King, Richard Bachman second. This is again, this endeavors to be a little bit humor to the book, and kind of on that, I think it succeeds. And definitely, if you're an action fan like Aaron and I are, I think you'll definitely have a lot of fun with it. A lot of chases, a lot of stunts, a lot of crazy action. So that's really it's definitely really a real it's definitely really a popcorn movie. So overall, I had a lot of fun with it.
Okay, I did not get a chance to see the other half because I had to leave.
Why? Yeah, why'd you have to leave?
We had two different screenings happening, and I wasn't supposed to be at either one of them. But we handed out enough seats to both that and Now You See Me, Now You Don't, or whatever the other one. And they were on two different ends of town. And then there was a problem with the list. I got forwarded. I think half the list got mixed up in between two different locations. So I had to go down there and make sure. Running Man was a slightly earlier movie, and it was a priority one because I had the most people going to that. And so I was there, and there were people showing up late as fuck. We tell you guys to be there at 6:15. So we had to get that sorted out, and I just stood there talking to the reps for a while, half-assedly, and I'm watching it. And then there was another issue. That very same issue happened over at the Brendan Palms for Now You See Me. So I had to go. Actually, no, other way around. AMC. So I had to go take care of that. Whenever I have more than 50 people converging on an event, I never just leave it up to the studio personnel that's there to count and take tickets. That's overwhelming, and it's not a good look. These people are there in my name. I got to go make sure things get. So I got to see a little bit of Now You See Me. I don't have any plans on seeing in the rest of that, but I do. I saw enough of Running Man to where I'm like, yeah, I think this is. It's I only saw. I guess it's a 2 hour and 5 minute movie, a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Like that. So
look fun. It looked fun, but like I said, I'm not an Edgar Wright fan. There's nothing about Edgar Wright that just jumps out at me and says, "Ooh, he's doing that movie. I got to be there." Like if you tell me Denny's doing a movie, I'm there.
I think also
doing a movie, I'm there.
I think it's interesting with him too. Like a lot of his legacy, and I mean, this isn't meant to be disparaging, but I do think a lot of his legacy, not his legacy is. I'm not sure what the right word for it is.
Yeah, I know what word you're looking for because I'm looking for it. His resume.
Well, not just that, but also it's like, I mean, he's kind of also known as the guy who never got to make Ant-Man, too. So that's kind of
yeah, but he's credited with that though, isn't he?
Well, he's got like a co-story credit or something.
He wrote it. He wrote
it. He said. I mean, of course, he famously walked away from the director's chair on that, and he's even said recently about that. Well, because it was like he was pitching it even before the MCU began, and by the time it got up and running, what he was going to shape it into was just not going to be an MCU streamlined movie.
I think it was amicable. I think it was.
It wasn't bitter. It's like, oh, it just sucks he didn't get to direct the thing that he had been prepping for so long.
And all this people have been hearing, right?
He does have a co-writing credit on first Ant-Man. Yeah, which incidentally is the only one I really like. It's the first one I like. The other two I barely remember.
And two made its money because of that last scene.
The only thing I remember about two is the end credit scene of them turning to dust,
which was when that was a shocking because they actually swerved you there. I mean, Marvel had become so predictable at that point, but that happening was not predictable. So I thought that was kind of cool. But
yeah, so I think again, it's like he's like what blew up is his resume here. So Fistful of Fingers, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim. This is everything he's directed, and it's not just nuclear writer credits. World's End, Baby Driver, right before Kevin Spacey's career imploded. Sparks Brothers,
not imploded, self-destructed.
Yeah, Maybe it's a better word. Oh God, I hope are we getting another Christmas Eve video from that maniac this year?
I still believe that guy's going to be back. Do I want him back? Do I think he should be? Not the question. I think that guy's going to be back because he's got backers in Hollywood that are vouching for him now.
Have you seen? Have you seen? I need to show you for this. You've seen the videos he puts out on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, they're cool. I don't make it.
The first one had I don't know who did this, but the first one had this guy do like a mock director's commentary of it, and it's hilarious to listen to. I'll shoot that demon if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, I could do the rest of my life without Kevin Spacey, but hey, if there's a demand on him, you guys can have it.
So then last night Soho and now Running Man. So I think
took a break in between those because that's like a 3-year break.
Well, I mean, you had COVID and stuff like that too. So, I think also he's. I think he's also like a kind of. I think the image he's cultivated is also he's a little bit of a James Gunn in the sense that he's seen as like one of us. He's one of the nerds who gets to play with $100 million and make movies. So I think that's a lot of also where his popularity kind of stems from.
Yeah, I just didn't. I like it's not knocking him. I just didn't get when I think of him. When I think of the movies I've seen from him, I don't. That's not why I'm ever going to go see a movie. Is that name? That's all I'm saying. It's like that name is just not a draw for me. As much as because I don't see a distinct style there that would trigger what I love about movies. Whereas these other ones I bring up, I know what I'm getting for the most part with very few variation. And he's done some movies of that list you listed. I like Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah,
I was pleasant spot, especially as somebody who read that read the comics and stuff. But when I hear that name, I'm not like, oh shit, and I'm just not. But I take it as a movie by movie thing.
Do you think Edgar Wright would have made a great AMM movie to be up with top? I think he would have been.
Hard to say.
I think it would have done pretty well. I mean, like whether people rank it in their top at MCU. I mean, that's like.
Well, plus it's Ant-Man, but Ant-Man, He did not treat Ant-Man like one of the founding Avengers in the MCU. They treated him like an add-on.
They intentionally treated it as a footnote. I mean, it was. I think it's the last movie of Phase 2, the first one.
Yeah,
and it's intentionally treated.
That's how it ends. But he was the only one, him and Wasp, that were not in. When you look at how the Avengers were founded, he was the only one that was not. Him and Wasp are the only ones that are not amongst the original founding as they are in the comic books. And because you have Captain America, who was not a founding Avenger. Captain America didn't become an Avenger until Avengers number 4. He was still in ice. But that's fine. You're only talking about 4 issues difference. But for the most part, if you look at the order that the Avengers movies and the order that they were introduced, for the most part, they were introduced exactly like Avengers number 1 does it. And they were facing the exact same enemy that they are facing in Avengers number 1, which is Loki. But Ant-Man is there. Ant-Man in the comics, Ant-Man and Wasp are in Avengers number 1. But they decided that Black Widow with her would be a bigger, would be a better fit because Hawkman wasn't a founding Avenger either. Hawkman didn't join the
Hawkeye, not Hawkman.
Hawkman, I'm sorry. I'm actually looking at that fucking Black Adam poster, and he's there.
Hawkman is awesome in that movie. I'm sorry, it's like I love Hawkman.
But Hawkeye wasn't a founding Avenger. I don't believe. But like I said, they don't have to adapt them at the comics. I just found it weird what their reasoning was not to do it that way. Because Ant-Man has been up there with,
Aaron's got a good interesting. She'd be good for a Flash movie. I could see that. I could see him on Flash.
I can't answer that. I can't. I'm going to remove myself because I don't see anything in his style that would tell me he could do that movie. Other than that, he's a talented director. I would say because he has a resume of making movies that work. But as far as like a preference for him over anybody else, I can't tell you that because I don't see anything in his works that stands out to me and says only that guy. That guy's got to be the one. Whereas if you gave me some dystopian, futuristic, large scale thing, who I'm going to give you. And everybody else would be like, okay. I mean, if somebody sat down with you at a meeting and you threw him your pitch and it worked, I would not reject Edgar Wright. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to say definitively, okay, yeah, that guy. It's just weird because all week long I've been hearing people mention this does seem like an Edgar Wright movie, or this doesn't seem, or Edgar Wright-isms, or something. I'm like, what is that? What the hell is that? So I'm like, I'm kind of lost in the conversation because the movies I've seen of him are decent movies, but there's no breakout style to where when you bring up a genre, that guy type of situation. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no, Aaron. I wouldn't be able to. I have nothing to say no to it. You know what I mean? All right. So you just looked at Edgar Wright, and the only movie of his I like is Baby Driver. I made it 42 minutes into that. 50 minutes into that, and I walked out. And I haven't seen the whole. Yeah, I didn't even read the rest of it. I'm like, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't like, dude, or I wasn't feeling it, and I had access to other movies, so I went and saw those.
Yeah, he's again like my number one from him is definitely Scott Pilgrim. I think a lot of people discovered him through Scott Pilgrim.
Well, yeah, that was 2010. I remember that. That was quite a while ago.
It's like that and Shaun of the Dead. Those are really, I think, really what launched him.
See, not Shaun of the Dead is just not my kind of movie. So
it's a zombie comedy.
Yeah. Two things that I don't like in movies: zombies and comedy.
And have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's like, despite the title, it is not like as much of like a play-by-play of Dawn of the Dead as you might expect, because that's really
it's like Monty. It's kind of like Monty Python meets.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Like
it's a total fucking turn off for me. I was like, I'm like not really big into Monty Python, and by the time Shaun of the Dead came out, I was all zombied out, man. So it was like two things I just really wasn't there for. But hey, all right. So speaking of Stephen King, this has been a big year for Mr. Bachman King. Whatever drug he was doing at the particular time was what he called.
And he was doing a lot of them.
So I think I don't think any of these are pen names that are like, you know what, I want to hide my identity. I think he would believe in it. I think the powder was pure. He believed whoever he was at that time. But we got some movies. Obviously, Brad just reviewed Running Man. If you had to list your top 5 Stephen King adaptations, it doesn't matter whether they're on small screen, big screen, moving motion, what would they be?
Me personally?
Yeah. No, Brad, you and your avatar. Who else?
I was thinking like you're asking the chat on that.
No, I'm asking you. Yeah, well, we can get some feedback from them, of course.
I think definitely the It movies, like the Andy Muschietti It movies. Those are I basically look at those as one, partly because he's talked about wanting to do the the ultra cut, the just big mashup of two of them as one, like what we're going to be seeing with Kill Bill and the Whole Bloody Affair in I think next month or so. So his It movies are very, very high for me, as is the original miniseries. I think
I actually have the miniseries higher than the theatrical. The reason for me is because of it's 1990. You weren't supposed to be able to pull that off in 1990.
On TV, yeah.
Yeah, because that was a kind of.
Because I was a baby when that was on TV, so it's like I didn't see it until years later, and that's during that time. Of course, that's when probably like the 90s. Most Stephen King stuff was done as a TV miniseries because lengthwise it made sense, obviously, and
well, an audience. You had a bigger audience. Free TV is always going to have a bigger audience than.
Yeah. I don't know if I would give an honorable mention here. Even though it's definitely not one of the best Stephen King movies, but it's the one that was my intro to him was The Langoliers. It was my first. It's not bad. It's just
it's not bad. It's just not the one you hear.
It's just really dated and with really, really, really bad CGI. But no, that was my first Stephen King movie or miniseries, and was basically my gateway drug to everything with Stephen King. So I gotta kind of give that at least a little bit of a shout out. But yeah, both iterations of it, I definitely would have in my top 5. I probably would also put The Stand in there, like The Stand, the 94.
Okay, which one?
The 94.
Okay, because one of them is really, really good. The other one is okay. I got you.
Right. 94 is probably the of like the mini series that were done. The Stephen King ones from the 90s. That's probably the one that I think most people rate the highest. Would be the original Stand. And I mean, it was a big deal at the time. I mean, and it's like 6 hours long, like all told. I mean, it was treated like a big event. And of course,
Oh yeah, they made a TV guides that came out. That was back
Yeah,
damn kids. There were TV guides, and they all had them on it, and it was cool.
yeah, and of course, sick bastard that I am, when COVID hits, the first thing I do is put on the stand.
Well, everybody did. Dude. Everybody
yeah.
was buying the stand. Dude.
So yeah, both iterations, the stand. He's not a fan of it, but again, I got a list of Shining.
Jesus Christ.
Did scare the bejesus out of me the first whatever. So
that movie scares you. The Shining scares you.
Yes, it absolutely did. And listen, his reasons for his qualms with it, I totally, it very legitimate, particularly with Jack Horn, which for those of you again haven't, there's a reason why it's marketed as Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. So I may even be like cheating a little bit here by including that, because it's much more.
Because it's not a Stephen King movie.
Well, like how much it reinvents the Jack's character arc. I mean, he goes, it's in the novel, it's very autobiographical to Stephen King's substance abuse and all the problems that caused him.
Once you understand that, it actually gets another leg to stand on for me, but it's still not a very good movie.
Well, and adjacent to that, I think I would probably also include Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep is like that's
the better of the two. It's the better of the two. So.
Well, it's the one he likes more of the two, and it was the one that really, again, had a really just wild task it had to do, where it's like it's adapting, because the Dr. Sleep novel, there's that, it's adapting that, but it's also going to act as a sequel to the Kubrick Shining movie, which of course there's definitely discrepancies between those two things. So it really, just with how it reconciles all that as being adapting the book that's following the novel, but also following on the Kubrick movie, it really manages that very well, and it probably it's probably not only is it just a great adaptation of Dr. Sleep, but it probably captures more of like if that had been like what was made in 1980, that's probably more what King was hoping for. And I think so. It kind of the way it reconciles those two things, I think really is part of it. But also, it's really creepy, and it's all right with adding in the mythos that's built upon with like the population of people with the ability of the Shining and the people hunting them, and so yeah, Dr. Sleep, I would include that. So I've got both incarnations of it. Both the Muschietti movies and the 1990 miniseries, The Stand, The Shining, and Dr. Sleep. Those, I would say, are my top 5 Stephen King movies / miniseries.
Number 5, Night Flyer. Not a very widely seen. Miguel Ferrer, the late Miguel Ferrer. It's taken from Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's with the vampire flying around in a plane. Literally drinking, hitting airports and attacking airports. Love the ending of that. Number 4 is Creepshow.
Yeah, Creepshow's that's pretty damn good too.
Okay,
and that's the George Romero like horror anthology one with the dude with the cockroaches coming out of his body.
Correct. Number 3 is Carrie. Numbers 1 and 2 are going to be the same movie. I'm going to go with number 2. I consider Muschietti it as one project, one production, and then number 1 is 1990s It, simple because it's not supposed to be that creepy in 1990 and on TV. This is not HBO Max. This is not cable TV or streaming. This is on ABC. This is on, you're getting cereal commercials and toilet paper commercials in the middle of this. And you got this creepy motherfucker with these razor sharp looking teeth and the suggestiveness for something there was no such thing as TVMA. If it was on TV, it was okay for you to watch. I don't think that show was okay for you to watch, but they pushed the boundaries and I love it. Tim Curry, all due respect to Skarsgård, but Tim Curry defines that role in the way he looks and moves. It's like, it's just creepy as fuck. I mean, Skarsgård does a great job, and that's why that movie is like right behind it. But given the time, and Tim Curry at that point in his career was super talented, he could do anything. So I put that one slightly ahead of the Andy Muschietti version, but yeah, there's so much stuff. And just to give you guys an idea of just how influential in film he has been. His very first one, I think, Salem's 1976 was Carrie. He had Salem's Lot, is another one I could have been through. But Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive, a horrible movie.
Yeah, there's one. If there's one that's not on anybody's like top King movies list, Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Creepshow 2, which is actually pretty good, but I didn't feel like it needed to be in my top 5. Pet Sematary is legendary. Thinner is actually a tie into Dark Tower. The Cell was good. It Chapter 2, and then other ones Carrie, The Shining, Disciples of the Crow. Cujo was horrifying. That movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
The Dead Zone. Christine is a classic. Children of the Corn. Firestarter was kind of lame, but it was Drew Barrymore, so we went. Stand By Me, I didn't even know that was his until like about 2 years later, because I was fixated on him doing horror. I didn't know he could do something like that. The Running Man, I saw in the movie. Fun for 1987. Fun for 1987, but it started to age badly while I was watching it.
Well, again, it's like it's especially today is remembered first and foremost as Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and less.
Yeah, because that's what the 80s were. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Graveyard Shift, Misery was obviously a classic. Got Kathy Bates an Academy Award. The Dark Half, Needful Thing, that's another tie-in. Shawshank Redemption, people don't realize that's one of him. A lot of people consider Shawshank Redemption one of the greatest movies ever made. I think it's up there in the top 40 or 50. I can't put it in my top 10. It is the movie that Morgan Freeman, one of the two movies that Morgan Freeman should have won the Academy Award for, and not $1 Million Baby. The other one being Driving Miss Daisy. The Mangler, Dolores Claiborne. That's another one that he was out of. The Night Flyer, which I brought up. The Green Mile. People don't realize the Green Mile was
that was Michael Clark Duncan. That was his breakout.
Yep. I'm just tired of people being bad. Dreamcatcher, I saw. A movie I still can't wrap my head around to this day. I actually saw when I went to go see Dreamcatcher. The reason why I notably remember that movie is because that's when they started showing the Animatrix. Was before Dreamcatcher. Let's see. No Smoking. The Mist is actually really good.
The remake is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I do not like the remake of Carrie. The Dark Tower sucked, but that's not his fault.
Yeah, the Dark. Yeah, don't get me started. The Dark Tower.
You know that where that lies out for me. Doctor Sleep, I think, is great. The remake of Firestarter to me sucked as much as
I didn't think it was anything right home about it.
We watched Salem's Lot, didn't we? We did a watch party of Salem's Lot. I think we did. And yeah, it's not good, and it's long.
And when you know what else? The
Long Walk.
The Long Walk really was pretty good too. Recently, the remake of Pet Sematary, I didn't think was anything to write home about.
That movie. See, there's certain things like I always say, everything has a time and a place, and not everything needs to be remade, guys.
Because we just had this year, The Long Walk, The Running Man, and The Monkey. The Monkey, I really enjoyed the Monkey.
I don't remember the Monkey for the. I didn't see the Monkey. I think I got the popcorn bucket. Yeah. William, I'm shocked none of you picked Shawshank Redemption or Green Mile. Well, we said 5. The man has way more than 5.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm biased towards his science fiction horror fantasy, even though the Green Mile, technically, the way that ends is like what the fuck. I don't like the way that story ends simply because I'm like, well, why do I give a shit that he's gone if you're just gonna do that? Fine, but people love it. And I'm like, the Green Mile.
Also, kind of famously seen as his Achilles heel. That's why in his cameo in Chapter 2, he's the guy in the antique shop with the bill saying, it's like, oh, here's your book, but I didn't like the ending.
See, I hear this a lot when it comes to 1990. I thought both halves were equally effective, but that's just me. All right, The Mist was awesome. Yes, The Mist is actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, The Mist is that's one I could definitely have in my top 10 of the Stephen King movies, and that's also one that like significantly changes the ending and really makes the ending. If you haven't seen the Mist, the ending in the book, the ending in the movie is a like real punch in the gut. The ending of the ending of the movie is one of the most like heartbreaking ending I've ever seen. The ending of the movie, you feel like your heart has been ripped out. I won't spoil it for this if you haven't seen it, but yeah.
I need this fucking rain to stop.
Oh, it's raining?
It's been raining all fucking day. On the Saturday. The one day I don't need it ever. I already told you guys, if it never rains here again, William's okay. I'm okay. We'll find a way. We'll go digging for water. I don't care. But it has been raining since I got here, since before I got here, off and on, all day. And if you've ever been to Vegas, people don't like to come out when it rains. My tourists will look out their window, they'll see that rain, and they'll close those blinds right up and go down and gamble or do something else. The people that are here for conferences that come out, they are not doing anything that's not work related because they're a hotel. They can do all that. But when the weather's good, they come out and they're here for can we talk? You know, not when it's Portlandia out here. And I sent Clint on my pictures of my buckets being loaded up. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same situation at the office, which is fucking wonderful.
So what would you say? What would you maybe be your pick for like the weakest or the worst Stephen King adaptation?
Oh shit, there's a couple of them. There's a lot.
I think Maximum Overdrive's got to be a candidate.
Well, Maximum Overdrive is pretty lame, but no, you have The Shining.
Nah, see, I can't get away with it, man. I mean, it's in my top 5, obviously, so I can't get over that.
I think The Shining is just a bunch of
even if I can concede it's a Stephen King movie.
Quality wise, yeah, you could put Maximum Overdrive, but I had no expectations for Maximum Overdrive. The Shining is just long.
Which, by the way,
most of The Shining, in my opinion, is kind of pointless.
By the way, that's Stephen King's only attempt at the only time he directed. It was his directorial debut, his first and last time, and he's been asked like, why haven't you directed since? He says, watch Maximum Overdrive.
Well, you know what? We got a cool soundtrack out of it. I mean, who made
it's true, we did. I mean, it wasn't a total loss.
Yeah, because the movie sucked. But The Shining to me is, I think it's overrated. It's too long and it's pointless. I can't even come up with a kind. It's kind of pointless. And to be honest with you, and I said this to Junkie the other night, I will be in the minority. I don't care. I think many of Stanley Kubrick's films, with the exception of like 2 or 3, are pointless. I watched 15 minutes of Full Metal Jacket. I turn it off. Soon as the Gunnies dies, I'm sorry, it's been 40 years, people. If you haven't seen it, spoiler it. As soon as he goes, the movie's over for me. 2001 Space Odyssey, like I told him last night, I would rather watch AstroTurf reproduce than watch that movie ever again or its sequel. Eyes Wide Shut, pointless. Clockwork Orange is kind of pointless, but it's entertaining pointlessness. But now you line all that up with The Shining, which leaves itself open to any type of interpretation you want, depending on how you do your craft. And he Kubricked it. It's I don't know how many times I've described a Stanley Kubrick movie as long and boring. It's like it's part of the title when it comes to his movies. I'm sorry. I mean, and The Shining is, like I said, when we promoted Dr. Sleep, they're like, hey, we want you to show The Shining. I'm like, do you want people to stay awake? And I asked my handler, the mission here is to go get them to see Dr. Sleep. The absolute last thing I should be doing is showing them The Shining. I should just give them. Do you want me to just carry the book? I'll tell you what. I'll give them copies of Dr. Sleep and The Shining. They'll be in a better mindset, because if I show them The Shining and then I go send them to Dr. Sleep, I don't know if I think I'm going to lose them. I was really worried about losing people, but nope, that's what they wanted to do. And I had to sitting there watching that movie here, and then we did that here at the center, and I'm like, oh my god. And I know when The Shining is going to end. I know how it ends. But when you watch The Shining over and over again, you still ask yourself, is this ever going to end? So, yeah, it's not anywhere. The Shining, as far as watchability goes, is near the bottom for me. Maximum Overdrive, I can watch Maximum Overdrive long enough to hear AC/DC, but,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Probably going to break you. Well, I mean, would this have been the case for like a lot of people in 86? I mean, Maximum Overdrive, that kind of was my gateway to AC/DC. I mean, that's
the only good thing about the movie.
That's the only good thing about the movie, because it is a bad movie. And it was. I mean, they are the sound. They're the score. They're not just the soundtrack. They're
the score. Angus and Malcolm Young did the score for that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Otherwise, it's pretty bad. It does. I guess it gave a little bit of like pre-Raimi exposure to the Green Goblin with the Green Goblin, truck. But again, that's about all you can credit
I
it
never
for.
got. I'm like, what is this? But sure. All right, what else we got on the thumbnail? Because we've covered a lot. So, we're going to cover. I'm going to go use the restroom real quick.
Okay.
And then we are going to jump into something that I really think people are starting to forget. You remember certain things about it, but people just don't. Not enough people understand what liquid television was and what it gave to.
And that's actually going to be kind of my intro to it. So I'm just going to let you have the floor on that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go run in the rain and use the restroom, and I got it pulled up. I got a really good article pulled up that they did a few years back that I really want to highlight. So I'll give credit to that. But I will be right back.
So anyway, guys, The Furious is a Hong Kong martial arts ensemble. It's upcoming. Okay, let's see you guys got in there. Funny you should bring this up because I really the next time I kind of have like a thing I'm planning on doing now. Anytime a John Wick movie is dropping, and I'm going to see it, I'm just going to put up that GIF. Like, here's Johnny. That's what I'm going to do. Anytime with John Wick, I'm going to use the "Here's Johnny" GIF of Jack Nicholson from The Shining. It works. Works perfectly. Fun facts: the boys from Clockwork Orange made a cameo in Space Jam Legacy. I did not know that. They had a lot of cameos, and mostly of Warner Brothers' own characters in Space Jam Legacy. You watch that movie, the end, the climactic basketball games. There's a lot of people in costume as different Warner Brothers' own characters, whether it's Looney Tunes or what have you. It is. Bad spoils the movie, then apologize. What did I spoil tonight? Didn't spoil anything. I don't say the second half of It 1990 was bad. I just never failed to crack me up. It still had scary moments like the graveyard scene. Yeah. I mean, I think probably one that stayed with a lot of people is the stink scene, Beverly. And actually, by the way, it's like that is actually something I did think, as good as that is, Muschietti found a way to top that in his movie, because the blood just covers the sink in the 1990 movie. In the Muschietti movie, the whole bathroom just gets awash in blood that only Beverly could see. So the blood in the sink, that's it's a very creepy scene. What else you guys got? I think Eyes Wide Shut would have been better if Stanley Kubrick finished his full vision. Yeah. I mean, that's like true for a lot of directors. You pull up his filmography here real quick. Because I mean, believe it or not, I'm kind of with William. I'm not the biggest Kubrick guy either. I mean, basically it's kind of The Shining for me as far as like my Kubrick fanboy or fandomness. He only directed 2 movies after The Shining. It was Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut. What did 2? Yeah. That is really interesting. All right, let's see what he's got. Oh, Jesus Christ. Please go away. Just get a life, for God's sakes.
Who are we talking to?
I'm not, you just see him in the comments.
All right. Well, like I said, you're bringing nothing to the thing, so there you go.
Eyes Wide Shut. It was his last movie before he passed away.
Yeah, and that movie was pointless.
I mentioned while you're away too. It's like I'm not the biggest Kubrick guy. I mean, basically, it's The Shining for me as far as Kubrick's filmography. It's like I'm not a big Kubrick guy beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Okie dokie, man. All right, so
real quick before we get into that, the restaurant scene from It 19 even better than one. Well, here's the thing though, the one in with Bill Hader as Richie. I remember because I saw it have to do with Ashley and that's where Richie's just going to town on Eddie and like just just has like all his his comedic banter there, and I turned to Ashley in the middle of the movie and go like, damn it, Richie's an asshole. Okay.
All right. This article is courtesy of Erin Maxwell of a publication called Remind. She articulates it way better than I could have. So I'm Erin, thank you. Not Aeronology. Erin from Remind. I'm stealing your shit because it was he's not Brad's not Brad's sister. Creepy motherfucker. Let's see. Here we go. All right. The lasting legacy of MTV's Liquid Television, the show that launched Mike Judge, Eon Flux, and more. And it actually was part of a highlight that said the forgotten legacy. And I feel that because I just don't think that gets enough appreciation because of the time. All right. In 1991, MTV was a juggernaut of cable television, still firmly in its music video era, but beginning to experiment with original content. This was before the rise of reality TV. Yeah, this would happen 2 years before The Real World would be the very first one of those. When shows like The Real World and Road Rules would eventually set up the template for what was possible and eventually take over the network, good or bad. At the time, much of MTV's programming felt experimental. Colin Quinn and Ken Ober recently concluded their role as hosts on the network's first game show, Remote Control. I love that show. The Ben Stiller Show had premiered the previous year, featuring then emerging cast that included Andy Dick, Janine Garofalo, Ben Odenkirk. Meanwhile, Liquid Television, an avant-garde animation anthology, was preparing to make its debut. The series meshed animated features of several mediums, including stop motion, traditional animation, puppet theater, and anime, to create a showcase of cartoons of different genres that highlighted different artists and styles. The series quickly acted as a platform for beginning animators looking to get their foot in the door, as well as would-be filmmakers hoping to make a name for themselves. And it worked. From the start, one of these segments that immediately captured MTV's audience was Peter Chung's Eon Flux. Sleek, sexy, subversive, the anime-inspired cyberpunk series blended expressionism era visuals with a dystopian science fiction setting. The result was a striking narrative centered on a scantily-clad super spy who, during her run on Liquid Television, remained almost silent as she repeatedly attempted to topple a totalitarian regime only to be killed over and over. Yeah, she died. Every episode she died. It was hilarious, but it was cool. The popularity of the segment led to a spin-off series in which the character, now voiced by Denise Portier, continued her surreal and cerebral battles against her philosophical adversary and sometimes lover, Trevor Goodchild. Yeah, they would be banging and fighting. It would be funny. The franchise would eventually culminate in a 2005 live-action film adaptation starring Charlize Theron, which wasn't bad, but what they were trying to achieve was almost impossible.
I never saw that, but
yeah, I saw that on Deployment. Another breakout talent from Liquid Television was Mike Judge. You know where this is going. Who bought two of his animated now you threw me off. Animated shorts from the festival circuit. And I remember because we were doing, I think it was Spike and Mike's. That's when we were hosting. We would go to Spike and Mike, and they would have Frog Baseball, and that's where I first saw that. That's what festival they're talking about. Festival circuit to the series. One was a crew cartoon called Frog Baseball. That's the first one, featuring two unnamed hooligans who amuse themselves by tormenting amphibians. I remember Pedia was angry about that because they would show them swinging the ball at the frog and the frog exploding. A concept that would eventually evolve the MTV pop culture phenomenon Beavis and Butthead. In the show's In the show's second season, another Judge creation, Office Space, was featured. The short followed a disgruntled animated office worker named Milton who threatens to burn down his workplace. This character would later inspire the cult classic The Office Space, directed by Judge and starring Ron Livingston and Jennifer Aniston. Other animators who would go on to leave their mark on the cultural zeitgeist also get their start on Liquid Television. Joe Horn contributed to a retrofuturistic segment called The Specialist. Remember that too, which was followed a trio of stylish super agents. He later directed episodes of The Boondocks and lent his talents to animated series such as Teen Titans. I'm going to butcher this name, but sorry. Yoshiaki Kawajiri. I'm sorry. Who created the segment The Running Man, Went on to make incredible mark on anime by directing Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, The Animatrix, and Highlander: The Search for Vengeance, amongst others. And let's not forget the theme song written by Mike Mothersbaugh, best known frontman for Devo. He had previously composed the music for Pee Wee's Playhouse, and would later go on to create the theme for songs like Rugrats, Dawson Creek, Yo Gabba Gabba, The Regular Show, Our Flag Means Death, and many more. Although it ran for only 4 seasons and produced just 27 episodes. Wow, fuck. Liquid Television left an enduring mark of pop culture. The boundaries it pushed and the talent it launched, its influence is still felt today in shows like King of the Hill and Netflix Love, Death, and Robots in Castlevania, both of which echo the experimental spirit, mature themes, and the visual boldness that define the original anthology series. Its alumni continue to shape the entertainment landscape, whether through groundbreaking animation, boundary-pushing storytelling, or iconic characters that began as sketches on MTV's most daring platform. And I'm pretty sure one of those that's not listed on here is one of the great accomplishments. I think I'm echoing to your microphone.
I'll go wait.
The Max. I'm pretty sure the Max was on Liquid TV. Other issues, and that's another series. Okay, the comic book series was adapted into an animated series as part of MTV. But Oddities was that. I put the Max on there by mistake, but MTV Oddities. That's another one that we need to cover. The show covered the Darker Image #1, the Max 1/2, and issues 1 through 11 of the series. So, but Liquid Television opened up the door for that one. So thank you. Wow, that's when MTV was at its height. Thank you, Aaron Maxwell. I'm going to put that article into the chat so you guys can read it at a pace that works for your brain.
Love Beavis and Butthead. See, and what's crazy is that I only realized
anymore.
I've only realized in the last couple of years, like, you would think that show would like turn off women, particularly because it's just such crude smut.
It did when it came out. It did, but MTV didn't care.
I mean, like when I was at Screen Rant, I mean, I did when the last movie came out on Paramount Plus, I did like a character guide on that. I remember actually saying at the time, because do I need like give like a big? I mean, just listening to the cast and who they played, I need like a big character description. They say, "It's in your call." It's Beavis and Butthead. No one's like watching this for like riveting character development, but.
No, but they got a lot of headlines back in.
They had to put that like that disclaimer ahead of it that really that's so hilarious. It's like, don't do what these two jackasses do.
I think the first year that this came out, Liquid Television, and when they were in because they would show them in Spike and Mike's Animation Festival. I think the first 2 years is the only time I ever really thought Beavis and Butthead were funny. And then the one sketch where they weren't supposed to laugh in class or they'd be suspended. Other than that, I was like, I would watch them just to see them what they would see, because it was originally them watching videos, and sometimes it was videos that
they were watching videos like see hot chicks in there,
but they would play like Megadeth at a time where Megadeth wasn't being played on MTV, and they would be talking over it and butchering it, but it was still kind of fun. But they go down to the category of The Simpsons with me. At some point, I just outgrew Beavis and Butthead. It just wasn't funny.
It means like I'm one of those people who I don't really like. I kind of subscribe to the idea like if you're not doing anything wrong or it's not hurting you, not anybody else, you shouldn't like have to adopt the term guilty pleasure.
Yeah, but in early 1990s, you had to.
If I had to apply to anything, I would probably be Beavis and Butthead, because like it can make me laugh, but it's like I'm so ashamed of like laughing at this show, and it's only last recently that I've I've female colleagues say, oh yeah, I was big time into Beavis and Butthead during its heyday. And I mean, first of all, what is their main character trait? It's like they're always trying to score. So these two are clearly misogynistic, pigs, and it's really always struck me as like something that would really be like very like female repellent. But I guess
you had to be there at the time when they were making the play. Like the PETA one was obvious. They were. I mean, it's depicting animal abuse.
And the Daria, of course, was a spinoff. Daria is a lot more highbrow than Beavis and Butthead, which isn't hard to do, but still, it's it's very much the yin to their yang. It's very Daria is a much more intellectual show. It's a very funny show.
By the time Gaia came around, I was like, yeah. I mean, la la la. I mean, it was like he went from like her parents changed from when they were in her. She was in her thing. They because they first started appearing in Beavis and Butthead, and then she got her own show. And by the time she got her own show, I was done.
Well, the animation style also changed so drastically from. Sorry. From their show to hers. It for the longest time it just really Beavis and Butthead, and like the movie as well, like really captured that.
The movie was stupid. I saw that in the theater. I don't know why.
The guy wants to score his life. Yeah. He's paying us. We could buy a new TV. So it's definitely it was the kind of characters these dudes are and the kind of humor that the show minds. It just always struck me something like this is definitely a sausage fest in terms of its audience, but I guess I was wrong.
Your mic is completely fucked up now.
Oh,
you're not coming through. Say something.
You hear me now?
Yeah, you just had a bunch of
feedback there.
Crushed
it
up.
always struck me as like because of like who these dudes are, and their number one goal in life. It always struck me as this is going to be a very much a sausage fest for this audience. But what do I know? I guess.
Yeah, and like I said, some of the stuff hung around still around to this day. It's just that, like I said, towards the mid '90s, and then you had South Park come along, and at that time, people started going in that direction. I am not a South Park fan. I appreciate what they do, especially these days. But as far as like being a fan of the actual show, when it came to these comedy cartoons, once I grew into adulthood, I just didn't watch them anymore. I just didn't. I was like, I don't have to watch these anymore. I'm just not going to.
Judge, I tried to get into King of the Hill as a kid, but I watched it here and there, but it didn't. My big thing, of course, as a kid, as far as like cartoon anime shows, was Simpsons. So that was really where my
I watched a total of I think a half hour of King of the Hill, and that's by accident because I think it was on after X-Files and I over-recorded.
Well, and that's also kind of an unofficial Beavis and Butthead spin-off because I mean it's the Hank Hill is very much
the same dude.
I was like, are you the two dudes that have been whacking off on the super shit?
Yeah, but I watched that, and as soon as I saw all the people in the show, the dude is like, blah, 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 I'm like, I'm never gonna watch this again. You guys enjoy.
Did you see the movie theatrically, Beavis and Butthead?
Mm-hmm. I lost a bet. I remember I lost a bet because I would have never like consciously gone and seen that movie. But I lost a bet, and I forgot. It was with Army buddies, of course, and I saw it. It wasn't like the worst experience of my life, but I would not have gone other than being cool.
Butthead, what are you expecting?
Yeah, it was what I expected it to be. It was kind of stupid.
It's like it's coming out of its ass, but it's also coming out of the ass of the ass.
And I realized why I stopped watching the show. I mean, it had some moments in there. Cavity searches all. I mean, it got some laughs, but not enough for me to want to sit there for an hour and a half of it. And then when they farted and blew up started the nuclear because they met their parents and met their dads in the desert. And it's kind of lame. I mean, it's like when those people who do go on to do movies that are Saturday night sketches and it's funny for 5 minutes, but when you stretch it to 2 hours, it's not funny anymore. That's what a lot of that kind of stuff is for me. So, all right, guys, this is going to be a short show simply because I got to go do some damage control here in my office here and dump some buckets.
Oh, you getting rain damage?
Yeah, I'm on second floor without an elevator, so just imagine how fucking fun this is going to be. And I've warned everybody on my social media, if you are one of those people who are, we needed this, my exact quote myself, stay the fuck away from me. Okay.
You're talking about the rain.
Yeah. Keep your distance. Stay the fuck away from me. I didn't need this. I can show you a whole bunch of shit around here that I didn't need today. So yeah, never rains here again. I'm good. We'll figure it out. We'll get the water from somewhere. But yeah, this city, my parking lot that is usually bustling with car shows and shit like that's fucking empty right now because they're not going to come out in this. So, yeah.
Sorry, you just with the Beavis and Butthead. I maybe flashback. I'm sorry, just made my mind flashback to one of the jokes in the movie that always made me laugh the hardest is when they like stop at like the one where the geyser display is and they go in the bathroom. And they look at the toilets with the motion detectors. It's incredible. That's amazing. It flushes on its own.
That was funny to you?
That was one of the funniest jokes in that movie for me. It's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just go out. I have this hat. I have this hat, Aaron. That's what I have. For those of you, Brad, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Brad is as creepy as he comes off. I'm sorry. I just can no longer hide it because he doesn't try to. So, all right, well, we're gonna.
Unfortunately, you hopefully haven't seen like Noah's Ark floating past the Starry Day. Hopefully, not that bad.
No, but it's rained. It said it's supposed to start up at 10:45. I'm fucking waiting, and then we got more next week, and I'm like, why? And I know what it was like when I got here to Vegas. I know how much rain we got here. I got into Vegas in December of '93.
Yeah,
and I swear to God, we did not have this much shit.
How cold is it get there this time of year?
It's about 65.
Okay, so it's like cool basically.
I can deal with the cool. Hell, I can deal with the heat. The two weather conditions that are complete bullshit are wind and rain, because both of those do destruction. Cold doesn't destroy shit. All right, the heat doesn't really destroy shit. Might drive up a power bill every now and then, but there's no damage. 114-degree heat, I don't have to worry about what condition my office is going to be when they come in, or whether people are going to come see me because of that. You know what? People come out in 114-degree heat. They'll come right up those stairs and they come right in here. You know what they won't travel in? The slush shit out here. Fucking. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, hey, tomorrow night, 10:30. Welcome, Jerry.
Very topical with the Stephen King talk this evening.
Yeah, well, I did that you saw how my design there. I did that because of the movie, and then now we're watching it. So, it was by design there, Brad. But I know you. Yeah. All right, guys. For those of you who are in shitty weather, shitty climate parts of the world, I'm sorry. I know what you're going through right now. Don't wish it on anybody. My fellow Californians who are dealing with the same storm, but in a much worse 2 inches of rain. Fuck all of that. So yeah, everybody stay as safe as you can, stay as dry as you can, and we'll see you tomorrow night for the clown and all his friends. Bye.
Yes.